Bazam, Bites of Future.
All right, let's kick off this deep dive. We're tackling India's packaged food scene today. You've sent in a pretty diverse mix, gotta say. Reports, articles, even some interesting data visualization. So this is something you're ready to really dig into, huh? Awesome. Let's see what we can unpack from all of this and hopefully unearth a few things you haven't heard before.
It's incredible, how much this industry really reflects India's economic trajectory. We think of big industries when we talk about growth, but how people's eating habits change, that tells a whole story too.
Yeah, it definitely feels like things are changing fast too. One of the reports, it mentions that the average person in India is spending, get this, more than double on packaged food now compared to the early 2000s. Is that as big of a deal as it sounds?
It is, yeah. Big deal. Projections are showing India's packaged food market reaching, wait for it, $6.4 billion by 2029. That kind of jump, it's got to be driven by a few big things happening all at once, right? More disposable income, people moving to cities, and just, I think consumers overall, their tastes are branching out.
Makes sense. But I got to be honest, when I think Indian food, my brain goes right to spices, like vibrant colors, fresh ingredients. Not exactly the first thing that pops into my head when I hear packaged is that image, outdated now.
It's getting more, you could say complex. Traditional dishes, they're still hugely important, of course. But packaged food in India, it's not just one thing anymore. It's bakery stuff, confectionery, dairy, snacks, ready-to-eat meals, drinks, you name it. The sheer variety, I think that really shows how much people's tastes are changing, Over 1.4 billion people, all with different cravings.
So it's not all just curry in a box then, huh? Although, speaking of familiar favorites, one of the charts, this one really stuck with me. It showed that biscuits, they make up 82% of bakery production in India. Are they really that popular?
Oh, yeah. Biscuits are a daily thing for lots of folks. And it's a good example, right? Traditional food going into this packaged format, people wanting things to be convenient. But it's not just the old staples. Stuff like nutritional bars, those are really taken off. Those grab-and-go, healthy snacks. You see that especially with younger folks in the cities.
Okay, so where are people buying all this stuff? I'm guessing supermarkets and those big hypermarkets are still the main spots.
They are, but retail's changing quickly. Convenience stores are popping up, perfect for those quick trips, especially in cities, right? But the real game changer, I think, is online. These platforms and what we call quick commerce, it's like a revolution.
So it's not just ordering takeout anymore.
No way. In India, quick commerce, it's become this whole ecosystem, instant delivery for everything. We're talking groceries, meds, cosmetics. I've even seen electronics. By 2025, projections are saying it'll be a $5.5 billion market. One of the charts you sent, it shows this perfectly. The market size, it's basically a straight vertical line going up. Crazy. That urban, I gotta have it now mindset, it's powerful.
Wow. That's a lot to digest already, and we haven't even gotten to the challenges this industry is facing. It's not all smooth sailing, I'm guessing.
Definitely not. There are some pretty serious hurdles. Understanding those, it's just as important as understanding the growth itself, I think.
Well, in that case, let's dive into the challenges on the spice route, as the outline so dramatically puts it. What's the biggest headache companies are dealing with in this market?
One of the most pressing things, it's honestly just the rising cost of everything, basic ingredients, things like edible oils, even packaging materials, it's all going up. And then on top of that, transportation and energy costs, that really hits rural areas hard.
Yeah, it's tough. One report I saw, it said vegetable prices spiked 42% in October alone. If you're trying to run a food company, that's got to make planning a nightmare.
It does. And those costs, those input costs, they eventually get passed on, right? Consumers end up paying more at the checkout. When basic food gets more expensive, everybody feels it, especially folks who are already on a tight budget.
So how are companies dealing with this inflationary pressure? Do they just raise prices for customers?
Some do, but that's a risky move in a market where people are so price sensitive, right? Lots of companies are trying to absorb some of those costs themselves, streamlining how they do things, figuring out their supply chains, maybe finding different sources for ingredients. It's all about getting creative. Protect the bottom line without sacrificing quality. That's the goal.
Okay, cost is a big one. But what about the consumers themselves? Earlier we were talking about changing tastes, people wanting healthier stuff. Is that having a real impact?
Oh, absolutely. The shift towards healthier, more natural products, it's like reshaping the whole landscape. Organic, functional foods and drinks, the demand is huge, and it's forcing companies to rethink their products. New formulas, different ingredients, investing more in R&D.
It's not just slapping a healthy label on something anymore, is it?
Nope, not at all. Consumers are way more savvy now. They're reading labels, they're researching ingredients, they want to know what they're putting in their bodies. This is really noticeable with younger consumers, especially in cities. They're more health conscious, more aware of the impact their food choices have, you know?
So staying ahead of those changing tastes, that's key. It sounds like companies have their work cut out for them.
They do. And it's not just about offering those healthier choices, it's about how you communicate it. Being clear, being credible, making it compelling for the consumer, building trust, that's the core of it all.
One of your sources, it talked about how complex the retail scene is in India. What makes it so different?
You know those small independent shops, the Kirana stores?
Yeah.
The sheer number of them, that's something you don't see in a lot of other markets. They're woven into the culture. But logistically, for companies trying to distribute products, it's a unique challenge.
I'm looking at a stat here. It says Kirana stores, they make up over 92% of India's food and grocery retail. That's huge.
It is. And it requires a totally different approach compared to working with like big chain stores, building relationships with individual shop owners, being flexible with delivery, helping them manage their inventory. It's very personal, hands-on work.
Seems like a ton of work, but I guess it's essential, especially reaching people in those rural areas.
You got it. Those Kirana stores, they're often the only option for a lot of folks, especially outside the cities. Figuring out how to navigate that whole network, that's crucial if you want to succeed in India.
So, rising costs, consumers wanting different things, a complex retail scene. Anything else companies have to worry about?
Can't forget about the competition. We touched on this before, right? You've got multinational companies, you've got domestic companies, all vying for a piece of the pie. As the market gets bigger, that competition's only going to heat up.
I bet some segments are more competitive than others. One report highlighted the snacks market, said it was particularly intense.
Oh, yeah. Snacks, that's a segment projected to grow like 9% every year, steady. That makes it pretty attractive. You've got big names, new players coming in all the time. Everybody's trying to innovate, grab the consumer's attention.
So how do they stand out?
It's a mix of things, right? They focus on new products, building a strong brand, targeted marketing campaigns. Some are even going the premiumization route.
I've heard that term before. It's about offering like higher quality stuff, but obviously at a higher price.
That's it. It's a way to stand out, target those shoppers who are willing to spend a little extra for something special. But it's tricky. You don't want to price out those value-conscious consumers. They're a huge part of the market. Can't forget about them.
Right. Finding that balance, offering value, while still giving people something unique.
Exactly. And don't underestimate good marketing either. In a market this big, this dynamic, cutting through all the noise, reaching those consumers, that's essential.
Feels like they're using everything. Traditional media, digital platforms, even influencer marketing.
Yep. The whole playbook. You got to be creative, be strategic, and maybe most importantly, stay ahead of the game. The media world moves fast. Got to keep up.
Before we move on to how companies are actually tackling all this, one more hurdle popped up in the research: regulations. How big of a deal is the regulatory stuff in India?
Oh, that's a good point. The regulations, especially for food, it can be a lot to handle.
One article, it talked about food safety regulations, labeling requirements, even restrictions on imports. Sounds like a minefield.
It can be, yeah. Companies have to make sure their products are up to code, so to speak. And those regulations, they change all the time. It's a constant effort, staying informed, adapting, making sure you're investing in compliance. Nobody wants penalties or, even worse, having to recall their products.
I bet that's especially tough for smaller companies. They might not have the same resources as the big guys.
Oh, absolutely. It's a hurdle everyone has to deal with, but it can feel a lot higher when you're just starting out.
Hey there, hope you like the conversation so far. You can also download the packaged food market report from our website, bizom.com.
So we've got rising costs, consumers wanting different things, a complex retail network, intense competition, and all these regulations. Sounds like a lot to juggle. How are companies not just surviving, but actually doing well with all this going on?
$1 million question, right? And the answer, it's not simple. There's no magic formula.
All right, so let's break down those strategies then. We mentioned go deep and go wide earlier. Can you refresh our memory on what those are all about?
Sure. Think of them as two sides of the same coin. Each tackles a different part of this complex market. Going deep, that's about maximizing your impact in one specific area, a region, a certain type of consumer, that kind of thing.
Like becoming a hyper-local expert in a particular place.
That's the idea. Understanding the nuances of that market, tailoring your products and your messaging to that specific audience, building relationships with the local retailers, the local consumers.
One source talked about regional customization, targeted marketing, in-store promotions, that kind of stuff. Can you give us an example how that plays out in the real world?
Okay, say there's a company. They want to make a big splash in a region that's known for loving spicy food. They might come out with like a limited edition chip flavor, something catering to that specific palate, or maybe a new biscuit, but it uses a popular local ingredient.
So appealing to those familiar tastes, those traditions, but offering something new at the same time.
Exactly. And it's not just the product, it's the marketing too. Companies are making campaigns that speak directly to the values, the aspirations of those specific consumers, making them feel seen and understood.
Building those relationships with retailers seems crucial too, especially with all those Kirana stores out there.
Absolutely. Those shop owners, they're often the trusted voices in their communities. Getting their buy-in, that's huge. It's about being present, being relevant, being responsive to those hyperlocal needs, those hyperlocal tastes. That's going deep in a nutshell.
So going deep is about dominating a niche. What about going wide? How does that work?
Going wide, it's all about scale. Expanding your reach across different regions, different types of consumers. Think of it like casting a bigger net, trying to grab a bigger chunk of the whole market.
I saw some stuff about partnerships, acquisitions, even going direct to consumer. Can you break those down a bit?
Sure. Imagine a company wants to get into a new region, but they're not really known there. They might partner up with a local distributor, someone who already has those connections, the retailers, the consumers, or they might buy a smaller company that's already got a foothold in that region. Boom, instant access to their infrastructure and customer base.
Those are some big moves. What about going direct to consumer? Is that becoming more of a thing in India?
Oh, definitely. E-commerce, quick commerce, those platforms are exploding. Companies are using those to reach people who prefer shopping online or, just want that instant gratification, that on-demand delivery.
So going wide, it's about scale, reach, being accessible, being where the consumers are, making the shopping experience smooth and convenient.
Exactly. And in a market as massive and diverse as India, being nimble, being able to adapt, that's essential for capitalizing on those growth opportunities.
Now, I know we've covered a lot, but we haven't really dug into the specifics of how companies are overcoming those challenges we talked about earlier. Can you give us a peek behind the curtain, so to speak? What are they doing to not just survive, but thrive in this market?
That's the big question, isn't it? And as you might guess, there's no one-size-fits-all answer.
Well, in that case, let's break it down. First up, there's the need for efficiency, keeping costs under control. With all these rising input costs, how are companies protecting their bottom line?
It's all about doing more with less, streamlining their supply chains, finding ways to be more efficient, negotiating better prices with suppliers. Some are even turning to automation, cutting down on labor costs and making things run smoother.
So it's like a constant hunt, finding those hidden costs and getting rid of them, but without sacrificing quality or making customers unhappy.
Exactly. And speaking of keeping customers happy, product innovation is a big part of staying ahead. Companies are constantly trying to find ways to stand out, to cater to those ever-changing consumer tastes.
I bet that means things like healthier options, new flavors, new formats, maybe even incorporating traditional ingredients into modern products.
You're reading my mind. It's all about creativity, being responsive to what people want. Consumers are looking for something unique, something that grabs their attention, something that aligns with their values.
Of course, we can't forget about branding and marketing. In such a competitive space, how are companies using those tools to differentiate themselves?
Companies are pouring resources into building strong brands, crafting those narratives that resonate with consumers, reaching their target audiences in new and creative ways.
I've seen everything from celebrity endorsements and influencer marketing to campaigns tied to social causes, appealing to consumers' values.
Exactly. It's about forging that emotional connection with the consumer, building trust and loyalty.
And on top of all of that, companies are realizing the importance of stronger relationships with their retail partners.
For sure. Those retailers, they're your allies. They're the ones getting your products into the hands of consumers. Companies are putting in the extra effort to support them, whether it's training those Kirana store owners, offering exclusive deals and promotions, even collaborating on marketing campaigns together.
It sounds like a multi-pronged approach, combining efficiency, innovation, branding, and collaboration. That's how you navigate these challenges and grab those opportunities in India's packaged food market.
Precisely. And it's such an exciting time to watch this market evolve and grow.
Now, before we jump into the next part of our deep dive, let's zoom out for a second. What are the key takeaways for our listeners so far?
Great question. I think the most important takeaway is that India's packaged food market, it's not simple. It's dynamic, it's complex, it's this whole ecosystem.
Right, it's not some monolithic thing. It's a mix of regional tastes, consumer behaviors that are constantly changing, and a competitive landscape that's always shifting.
You got it. And for companies to succeed in this environment, they have to be nimble, they have to adapt, and they have to be attuned to all those nuances.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Yeah.
You have to tailor your strategy, really understand the specific characteristics of each region, each segment of the market.
Precisely. And you got to stay ahead of the curve, anticipate those trends, adapt your products, your marketing, your distribution, all of it.
It sounds challenging, but also incredibly rewarding being a part of this market.
It is. I really believe the companies that embrace those challenges, the ones that find creative solutions, they're the ones who will reap the biggest rewards.
Now, before we move on to the next part of our deep dive, I want to leave our listener with something to chew on, so to speak.
Ooh, I love these. What you got?
As the Indian packaged food market continues to evolve, which segments do you think will see the most growth in the next 5 years, and why?
Oh, that's a good one. It really gets you thinking about all the trends we've discussed. That is a fantastic question. It really makes us think about which of these trends we've talked about will be the most important, you know?
It's hard to pick just one, but those ready-to-eat and ready-to-cook segments, those seem like they could be huge. We were talking about that whole convenience factor earlier.
Oh, totally. I think you're right on there. More women are working. Life's getting busier for everybody. That need for quick and easy meals, it's only going to get bigger. Plus, there's so much room for innovation in those categories, you know, new flavors, different ways of packaging things, making those meals even more convenient, more appealing.
And we can't forget about the whole health and wellness movement. The demand for organic, natural, functional foods and drinks, that doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon.
You're right. It's not a fad, that's for sure. People are realizing how much their diet affects their health, you know? And they're willing to spend more for products that fit their goals, help them feel their best.
That ties in with that whole premiumization thing we were discussing. As people have more disposable income, they're more willing to splurge on higher quality, more indulgent products.
Absolutely. And that creates a real opportunity, you know, for companies that can create those premium experiences, unique flavors, packaging that makes the product feel special, brand stories that really resonate with people, tap into their emotions.
It's wild how all these trends connect, influence each other. It's like a culinary puzzle, right? Each piece affects all the others. But before we get too carried away with all the possibilities, let's rewind a bit. What have we uncovered so far?
Good idea. Easy to get lost in all the exciting stuff in this market.
Okay, so we started by looking at how massive India's packaged food market is, set to reach, $6.4 billion by 2029. That growth, it's driven by a bunch of things, right? Income's going up, more people living in cities, and just this wave of consumers who are open to all kinds of new tastes.
Then we peeled back the layers, saw the challenges that come with all that growth, costs going up, squeezing profits, consumer tastes changing all the time, that complex retail system with all the Kirana stores, fierce competition from both local and global companies, and all those regulations.
And even with all that going on, companies are finding ways to not just stay afloat, but do really well. We talked about going deep, establishing yourself in a specific area, and going wide, trying to reach more diverse markets.
And we dug into some of the ways companies are tackling those challenges, right? Making their operations more efficient, saving money, embracing those product innovations, coming up with those brand stories that really speak to people, especially those savvy consumers.
It's been quite a ride so far, wouldn't you say?
Totally. But we're not done yet. Still more to explore.
Hey there, hope you liked the conversation so far. You can also download the packaged food market report from our website, bizom.com.
Now that we've got a handle on the big picture, the challenges, I think it's time to look at some of the specific segments that are really driving this growth. The ones shaping the future of packaged food in India.
Ooh, sounds delicious. Let's do it. What's our first stop on this culinary tour?
Let's start with a classic, something that's essential to the Indian diet: dairy. India has this long, rich history with dairy, and that tradition, you see it reflected in the packaged dairy market.
I remember seeing something about India being the biggest milk producer in the world. Is that right?
Yep, you got it. India produces over 20% of the world's milk. That means a huge, well-established dairy industry supplying both local and international markets.
So what kind of packaged dairy products are we talking about here?
Oh, everything. Milk, yogurt, cheese, butter, ghee, even those specialized products like paneer and lassi.
It's interesting how those traditional dairy products are adapting to this modern packaged format. What are some of the things driving those innovations?
One big thing is convenience. People are busy. They want dairy products that are easy to store, easy to take with you, easy to eat. Think those single-serving yogurt cups, pre-sliced cheese, ready-to-drink flavored milks.
I bet that health and wellness trend we were talking about earlier is playing a big role here, too.
Absolutely. Consumers are more aware of their health. They're looking for packaged dairy that's lower in fat, higher in protein, or maybe has extra nutrients added, like probiotics or vitamins.
I've seen a lot of those dairy alternatives popping up, too.
Oh.
Soy milk, almond milk, that kind of thing. Is that catching on in India?
It is definitely growing, although it's still a pretty small part of the market compared to traditional dairy. People who are worried about animal welfare, lactose intolerance, or just want to eat more plant-based, they're driving that demand.
It's amazing how much consumer preferences are changing, even something as traditional as dairy. It's like a mini version of all the big trends we've been talking about, right?
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's a perfect example of tradition and innovation coming together, creating all these new possibilities in the food industry.
So convenience, health, even sustainability, it's all driving growth in packaged dairy. What's next on our list?
Let's move on to something that's, well, almost synonymous with Indian culture. Snacks. India's got this incredible snacking culture, and you can really see that reflected in the packaged snacks market.
We talked about biscuits earlier, how they're so popular. Are those considered snacks too?
Oh, absolutely. Biscuits, those are a classic snack eaten any time of day. But packaged snacks, it's way more than just biscuits. It's a whole world of savory and sweet treats, from the traditional stuff to all kinds of new inventions.
So what are some of the most popular packaged snacks in India?
Well, you've got your classics, right? Potato chips, those extruded snacks like cheese balls and puffs. And then there's all the different kinds of namkeens. Those are savory, crunchy snacks, often made from lentils, chickpeas, rice. And on the sweeter side, there's cookies, chocolates, candies.
Wow, that's quite a variety. It feels like there's something for everyone in the snack aisle.
You said it. And what's really cool is how this segment is evolving to meet what consumers want these days.
What kind of trends are shaping the packaged snacks market?
Well, just like with dairy, convenience is huge. People want snacks they can grab and go, whether it's a quick bite, something to eat on the way to work, or just to munch on while they're watching a movie.
And I'm guessing health and wellness is a factor here too, right? Are people looking for healthier snack options?
Absolutely. People are paying more attention to what they snack on. They want lower calories, less fat, less sugar, and they're looking for natural ingredients. No artificial stuff, no preservatives.
I've noticed a lot of brands saying their snacks are baked, not fried these days. Is that because people want healthier snacks?
It is, yeah. Baked snacks, they're seen as the healthier option. Lower in fat, lower in calories, and they often have that nice crispy texture that people like.
It's interesting how companies are adapting, trying to give people what they want. Are there any other trends influencing the packaged snack market?
One thing we're seeing is the popularity of ethnic and regional flavors. People are getting more adventurous with their snacking, looking for those unique tastes.
That makes sense. India has such a diverse culinary heritage. It makes sense to see that reflected in the packaged snacks, too.
Exactly. Companies are picking up on this, introducing snacks inspired by different regional cuisines, traditional flavors.
So we've got convenience, health, and that desire for authentic flavors, all driving innovation in packaged snacks. What's next on our culinary exploration?
Let's shift gears to a category that's really taking off as people get busier and busier and want those convenient meal solutions, ready-to-eat meals.
I remember seeing some impressive numbers about the growth of the ready-to-eat market in India. What's driving that?
Convenience, for sure. We've talked about this before, right? More dual-income families. Everyone's got a busy schedule. People want meals they can just grab and eat without a lot of fuss.
And I'm guessing the variety of options is helping too.
Absolutely. The ready-to-eat market has just exploded recently. So many choices. You've got traditional Indian dishes, things like curries and biryani, but also global favorites, pasti, noodles.
Seems like companies are really tapping into those diverse tastes, those different preferences.
They are, and they're constantly coming up with new flavors, different different packaging, all to appeal to a wider range of people.
What are some of the key things driving innovation in the ready-to-eat market?
Aside from convenience, health is a big focus. Companies are making ready-to-eat meals that are lower in calories, fat, sodium, using fresher ingredients, adding more vegetables and whole grains.
I've noticed a lot of brands pushing the organic and natural angle too. Is that a big trend in this segment as well?
Definitely. People want to know where their food is coming from, how it's made. They want ready-to-eat meals without artificial ingredients, preservatives, GMOs.
It seems like transparency and sustainability, those are becoming more and more important to consumers.
You got it. And companies are listening, being more upfront about where they source their ingredients, using eco-friendly packaging, working with local farmers.
So we've got convenience, health, sustainability, all driving the ready-to-eat market. Anything else we should know about this segment?
Well, single-serve portions, those are getting really popular. People want meals that are perfectly portioned, whether it's for lunch, a quick dinner, or even just a late-night snack.
Makes sense. Single-serve portions, they're convenient, and they help with portion control, which is something a lot of people are thinking about.
Absolutely. And it fits with that whole personalization trend, too. People can pick and choose exactly the meals they want, the ones that fit their tastes and their dietary needs.
It's really interesting to see how companies are responding to all these evolving preferences.
It is. And this trend, personalization, it's not just limited to ready-to-eat meals. We're seeing it across the entire packaged food industry in India. Consumers want more control over their food choices, and companies are stepping up to provide more options.
So we've covered dairy, snacks, ready-to-eat meals. Any other segments we should explore before we wrap up?
Absolutely. Beverages. The packaged beverage market in India is huge. Everything from traditional drinks like chai and lassi to bottled water, juices, sodas.
I remember seeing something about the non-alcoholic beverage market in India growing like crazy. What's behind all that?
Well, just like with packaged foods, convenience is a big factor. People are busy, they want drinks they can just grab, whether it's to quench their thirst, get a boost of energy, or just enjoy a treat.
I imagine the hot climate in India has something to do with it too, right?
Oh, definitely. Staying hydrated is crucial, and packaged drinks are a convenient and refreshing way to do that, especially when it's hot outside.
What are some of the most popular packaged beverages in India?
Bottled water is huge, mostly because of concerns about water quality and because it's so convenient. Juices are big too, both fruit and vegetable juices. Ready-to-drink teas and coffees, those are popular. And of course, there's the classic sodas, especially with younger folks.
That's a pretty diverse mix. Any particular trends shaping this market?
Well, just like with other food categories, health and wellness are top of mind for a lot of consumers. They're looking for drinks with less sugar, fewer calories, and no artificial ingredients.
I've seen a lot of natural and organic beverages popping up too. Is that a trend that's catching on in India?
It is, for sure. People are becoming much more aware of what's in their drinks. They want natural sweeteners, real fruit juice, minimally processed drinks.
I've also noticed more of those functional beverages lately. Are those getting popular in India too?
They are, although it's still a relatively small part of the market. People who want more energy, better digestion, or just want to feel better overall, they're the ones driving that demand for things like sports drinks, probiotic drinks, and those waters with added nutrients.
It seems like the packaged beverage market is adapting too, becoming more sophisticated to meet the needs of Indian consumers.
It is, and it's a great example of how global trends are influencing what people want, what they're looking for, even in a place like India.
So we've covered dairy, snacks, ready-to-eat meals, beverages. Anything else we should explore before we wrap up this deep dive?
Actually, yeah, there's one more thing about India's packaged food market that I think is really important. Technology.
Ah, yes. Technology is changing everything these days. How is it impacting packaged food in India?
It's having a huge impact, I'd say, on every aspect of the industry, from production and distribution to marketing and sales.
Can you give us some concrete examples of how technology is being used?
Sure. In production, companies are using technology to make their manufacturing processes better, improve quality control, reduce waste.
I imagine automation is a big part of that.
Oh, definitely. Automation helps streamline operations, make things more efficient, and reduce those labor costs.
What about distribution? How's technology changing how packaged food gets to consumers?
That's a great question. One of the biggest challenges in India is that complex distribution network we talked about, especially in rural areas.
With all those independent Kirana stores, is technology helping with that?
It is. Companies are using technology to map out their distribution networks, keep track of inventory, and figure out the most efficient delivery routes.
That makes sense. Those tools would be super valuable for companies trying to reach all corners of the country.
Exactly. And it's not just about efficiency either. Technology is also bringing more transparency and accountability to the supply chain.
How so?
For example, some companies are using blockchain technology to track their products from the very beginning, like from the farm all the way to the consumer. That gives people more visibility into how their food is made, where it comes from, and it builds trust in the brand.
That's a really cool application of blockchain. I hadn't thought of that before. What about marketing and sales? How's technology changing how companies reach consumers?
Well, the rise of e-commerce and quick commerce has been a game changer. More and more consumers are comfortable buying food online, and companies are putting a lot of resources into their online platforms.
We talked earlier about how quickly quick commerce has grown in India. What are some of the other ways companies are using technology to reach those consumers?
Social media is a powerful tool. Companies are using platforms like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube to connect with consumers, build brand awareness, and promote their products.
I bet influencer marketing is a big part of that too.
You're absolutely right. Companies are working with popular food bloggers, YouTubers, Instagram influencers to reach a wider audience and give their brands more credibility.
It's amazing how much technology is changing how companies interact with consumers, isn't it?
It is, and it's only going to get more intense in the years to come. The companies that embrace technology, the ones that really understand how to use it, those are the ones that will come out on top.
So we've covered so much. The trends, the challenges, the strategies, the role of technology. This has been such an insightful deep dive.
I agree. But we're not quite done yet. There's one more crucial piece of this puzzle we need to talk about.
Oh, I'm intrigued. What else is there to uncover?
We've talked a lot about the opportunities, the growth, the exciting stuff, but we can't ignore the challenges, especially when it comes to sustainability and ethical sourcing.
You're right. That's a crucial part of the conversation.
Right.
And as this industry grows, those issues are only going to become more important.
Exactly. So for the final part of our deep dive, let's focus on the impact of India's packaged food boom, both on the environment and on society as a whole.
Sounds like a plan. Let's dig into those issues and see what companies are doing to address them. All right, let's talk sustainability and ethical sourcing. Those are definitely hot topics these days. How's India's packaged food industry handling all of that?
Yeah, it's something everybody's paying more attention to. Companies, consumers, everybody. As this industry gets bigger, its impact on the environment gets bigger too, and there's a real push to do something about that.
One of the reports mentioned how popular organic and functional foods and drinks are becoming. Is that connected to this whole sustainability thing?
Oh, definitely. People are realizing that their food choices, they affect the planet. They want products that are healthy for them and healthy for the environment, you know?
So it's not just about what's in the package, it's how it got there in the first place.
Yeah.
What are some of the things companies are doing to be more sustainable?
Lots of approaches, actually. Some are focusing on using less energy, maybe by switching to renewable energy sources or making their factories more efficient. Others are tackling waste, like using less packaging or working with organizations that can, I don't know, repurpose food waste or something.
Those sound like some pretty solid steps.
Right.
What about where they're getting their ingredients? Are companies getting more picky about that?
Yeah, ethical sourcing is a big deal now. Consumers want to know that the stuff in their food was produced fairly, fair to the farmers, fair to the workers, and in a way that doesn't mess up the environment.
Some of the research mentioned fair trade and sustainable agriculture. Are those things catching on in India?
They are, yeah. Fair trade certification means those farmers are getting a decent price for what they grow. And sustainable agriculture, that's all about minimizing the environmental impact, making sure it's done right.
So it's about making the whole food system better, more fair, more sustainable, all the way from the farm to the person eating it.
Exactly. And it's not just about doing the right thing. It makes good business sense, too. People are willing to pay more for products that are ethically sourced and sustainably produced.
Makes sense. Everybody wins, right? Consumers feel good about what they're buying, and companies, they can stand out in a crowded market.
Exactly. It's a win-win. And as consumers get more and more aware, I think we'll see even more companies adopting these practices. It's becoming a key differentiator for sure.
Well, this has been quite a journey. We've covered so much ground, the massive growth, all the cool innovations, those complex challenges, and the solutions that are out there. Before we wrap up, anything else our listeners should keep in mind about this industry?
I think the biggest thing to remember is that this market, it never sits still. Trends change. People want different things. Companies have to adapt all the time to stay ahead of the game.
So it's a dynamic space. You got to keep your finger on the pulse and be ready to embrace change.
You got it. And as India's economy keeps growing, that middle class gets bigger, this market's just going to become more important, not just in India, but globally.
It's been fascinating to dive into all of this, that's for sure. I know I've learned a ton, and hopefully our listener has too.
Me too. It's been a pleasure. Always love unpacking these complex topics, figuring out what's shaping the future of food, you know?
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. Thanks so much for sharing your knowledge and insights. It's been fantastic.
The pleasure was all mine. And to our listener, thanks for coming along on this culinary adventure with us. We hope you found it insightful, maybe got you thinking a little bit.
And remember, as India's packaged food scene keeps evolving, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.
Follow us on LinkedIn for more insightful conversations on the FMCG industry.